Okay, so this month we have Yasasvi joining us. She would be the youngest in class, I think. How old are you, Yasasvi?
I'm 13.
Okay, that's old enough. So I'll give you a little bit of background, SSV, because since you're new, everyone else has done this month's module before, so they would have an idea. So this month, I'm going to do a bunch of artifacts, which are just different objects, which often don't fall in any one category. So the different categories of art being, you would have landscape, portrait, maybe you would have still life in which some of these objects might come in, but other than that you rarely ever make these objects. The reason I like to do them is because they have a lot of opportunity to teach us how to just draw all sorts of things. Like today's objects are going to be these vintage biscuit boxes or tea boxes, and in that we will learn how to make three-dimensional box and also how to draw lettering so that if we can draw it in perspective. Some of it would be slightly skewed, so how do you make sure that that happens well? So that is the intent behind today's activity. And added to this, sometimes we do things like baskets, or we do old vintage equipment like telephones, perhaps, or lamps, any sort of thing that we can think of that's pretty and that's easy, not easy, that gives us something to learn, something new to make. Now, the advantage in this is that there are fewer elements in this object. Like, for example, we are basically just going to make a cube today and we are going to draw some letters on it. But you will notice that this will often help us in learning how to apply the same technique for even portraits or even landscape, where you have to draw huge buildings and then you need to draw a signboard right on top of it, things like that. So never underestimate what you can learn from what object you are making or what topic you choose to learn from. So let's get cracking. Let me share the images. So this is looks like an old Quaker Oats box. The graphic is pretty familiar to us by now because this brand is available in India for quite a few years. So we have three surfaces that we have to make: the left, or the sides, the front, and the top. And I want to show you how to paint or draw something like this. Then we have maybe this is a box of fudge. Here again, we have a metallic box with letters embossed and then just a plain colored. Then we have a box of popcorn. This looks so cute. I wonder whether popcorn was sold in boxes at all. This is really nice. And then we have coffee, of course. This has got a very interesting airtight clip container. And here there's just one side. So this is a three-dimensional box. You see the three dimensions only from the top and the front, and only the graphic on the front is visible. So we'll try to make this as well. We are going to make drawings of these first, at least the Quaker Oats and the coffee, because these have fewer elements, and then you can at home practice the other boxes as well once you understand this. Okay, so let's start with this Quaker Oats box. Whenever you see some sort of cube like this, you first have to identify the different sides. Oh, one second. What I've done here. Oh. So we've got edges over here. We've got this one edge, I'm just extending the line further so I can point to it. And then somewhere over here on this curve, you have another edge, and then on this side you have another edge. So the edges on the sides are pretty easy to mark because they are the point where the box ends. The edge in the center is where this curve either becomes slightly flattish or it changes its direction. That would be the center point of this curve that becomes the edge in the front. Now, to keep life simple for us, we first just mark these points to get an idea of the proportions of the box. You will notice that the lines on the bottom are much more angular than the lines on top. And I'm going to show you a simple technique to make boxes like these so you don't get very confused. The lines that are closer to us, should I say closer or let me take that back. So look at the horizontal lines on the left. These lines look like at some point they are going to converge. So this is a side seen in perspective. Likewise over here also the line on top is slightly flattish. The line at the bottom is slightly slanted and they look like they're going to go and meet at some point as well. Now, there is a third case to be made here for perspective, that is this side. These two lines also seem to be converging. So they will also go and meet at some point here in the south. So this is how we see objects in perspective. I'm going to save and share this image and then we'll come back to it so I can explain some more. So I'm going to explain to you how perspective works and how you need to observe these lines in perspective so that your box is made more accurately. If you want, you can draw this, but I would recommend that first you observe and understand the topic, and then I'll give you some time to draw it out in your own lines. So simply put, perspective is the ability of our eye to see the world in 3 dimensions. Like you can see a box like this, but when I turn it to the side, you know that there is depth to the box. It is assumed that this is an ability that has evolved over time, and we are able to sense depth by the fact that we have 2 eyes. If you close one eye, very often you won't be able to tell the distance. Like if I close one eye, I won't be able to tell the exact distance where the pencil is from me. So perspective is drawn on paper so that while we are looking at something that is actually essentially a 2-dimensional space, in this we are able to see the object as a 3-dimensional object. That is the idea of drawing perspective. Yashasvi, at any point if you feel confused, please ask me any questions, okay? So when drawing objects like a box, we can start off with something as simple as this. You can make 2 dots, identify where the center of the imaginary line joining these 2 dots would be, make a dot at the top and the bottom, join these dots. Then from the center you can drop a line that comes straight down, and then from the sides you drop lines that stop a little shorter than the center line, and then you can join these points. So you see that this line doesn't come all the way to the bottom. This line and this line can be parallel or even less parallel than we see, but never going in the opposite direction. And this will make us a nice interesting box. Now if we were to change the dimensions a little bit, give an angle to this and extend these lines further, these lines are definitely going to go and join at some point, and so will these. And here's a fun bit. Wherever these points are, the point on the left, which is called the vanishing point, and this also is a vanishing point, these two would be in the same line. And this line is called the horizon line. And this is the vanishing point. So whenever you see an object from the top, the horizon line is above the object. And when you see an object from the bottom, the horizon line is below the object. You don't even have to remember all these things. It's not like maths where you have to say, okay, this is the formula. I have to draw an object from the top. I need to see the horizon line on top of it. It's just how it is. I just want you to understand it. Now, when we are drawing a box like the Quaker Oats box in front of us, we can get an idea of the lines from the picture itself, like the green lines that I drew. And those lines will be at a particular angle. And that angle can be set by us. So the horizon line is always horizontal. And we can use this horizontal line as a guide for us in our illustration. As compared to the horizon line or the horizontal line, what angles do the other edges make? So let's say we take this angle. How much insight does it come? You don't really need to know whether it is 10 degrees or 15 degrees, but you'll know that the angle on the left is a little less than the angle on the right. Very often, the line in the center is or can be made more or less straight. Then from the line in the center, you draw an angle over here. Remember, all straight lines are a 90-degree angle and all horizontal are 0. Do you know this, Yasasvi? Have you learned this in geometry?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now this is where you can apply it, where it's not maths. So you know acute angles and obtuse angles and things like that, right? So this is an angle, this is at about 30 degrees. It doesn't matter how much this is, but notice that that angle will be definitely more than this angle. And how do we know this? Because at every point you can continue to draw a horizontal or horizon line. So see, this angle is less than this angle. Now when you are drawing these things, very often you won't notice all these tiny details, whether it's 10 degrees or 15 degrees or whatever, but you can definitely hold a pencil against it and know which angle is more or less shallow and which is more steep. So we will try and draw this box as well. Okay, so for practice, do you all want to just draw this box first? We draw first two dots in a line, in a horizontal line, but don't draw the line in between. Imagine the center of that line, then draw a dot on top and bottom. So you get 4 dots which you can join together. Then first drop a line from the center dot, and then drop a line from the sides. Now, one way to make a sample of the Quaker box is also to use this box that we have drawn and change its dimensions. So let's say we take 2 points. I'm leaving a little room on top so that it can expand. We take 2 points Make the original box exactly like we made in the on the top, but draw the lines very lightly and make a box out of this. Now, using one point as a reference point, you can, like the left side, we can change a whole lot of things. Like this angle seems to be the same angle that we see on the reference image, but this angle can be made a little more upright. So, see what I'm doing? This is a fixed point, and I'm changing all the points based on the point at the left. So this becomes a little, this is fine, this becomes a little upright, and it's only about so big, and then these two can be almost parallel. And then on the other side, we have a line that goes. If you feel that your boxes are looking a little warped in the beginning, don't worry about that. Everything can be adjusted. Then we draw a line in the center and we draw two lines from either side and try to manage this angle so that it looks like the reference image. The trick is to constantly look at the reference image. I think I've got the angles right. Remember, these illustrations are more fun illustrations, so they don't really need to be super accurate. But even in fun illustrations, you can still employ a little bit of perspective study. Now, whether or not we've got the proportions right, we will be able to tell after we draw in a few other elements like the lid itself, the rim of the lid. Then we will draw the graphics. So these lines are pretty easy to make because they are generally parallel to the box. And everything first has to be made with simple lines and then you make the complicated shapes. So first I'm making just a rectangle on top and then I'm cutting the corners literally. Then we will give us this big Q and just make boxes for all the letters. And these are all in a ribbon. So if you feel that your letters are not proportionate, they're not fitting, that means you probably have to extend this line further and expand it. Then draw the oval shape, another little band at the bottom. I'm pretty sure that when these products were designed, all these labels were hand designed and hand painted, and then they were finally printed onto this box. So you'll notice that these labels can look wonderful when they are illustrated by hand also. Now I'm just making the shape of this person as if he's not a person at all. Same thing on the right. Now notice that all the places where you have boxes, the top and bottom line will be slanted. And that slant of the line is going to be corresponding to this. So if this will be like, let me see if I can show you another box. Alright, so I have a box of colors here. Right now you see all this fits in a rectangle. But if I turn this around a little bit, and if I hold the line, where is the camera here? If I hold the pencil straight on the camera, you'll see that the word camel has tilted, right? But it's actually on the box, it is flat. If I take it and move it, you will notice that it has tilted. The same thing happens to all these sides as well. And the text on this is really fun to draw. I'm going to show you how to draw this as well. We often think that it will be so complicated to draw this text, but you know, there's a trick that old artists used to do. I don't know why I'm saying old artists. I used to work in an ad agency where we used to make these hand drawn illustrations also to show clients. So you just have to make lines. And we know that lines over here will represent text. So just a dotted line usually does the trick. And as you come lower, these lines will also change the angle. So what starts at this angle closer to parallel to the edge on top slowly radiates and becomes parallel to the bottom edge. This is how our eye sees three-dimensional objects. Objects that are further away will recede, will foreshorten, and sometimes even become straight if they are tilted. Okay? Any questions, anyone? Was this clear enough? Not too complicated, I hope.
Yeah. I think for me, maybe if you explain a bit on how we write the text, because my eyes generally see it straight, but if I have to write it in a tilted way, it doesn't look like tilted. It will somehow come again straight. So
Yeah.
maybe that's my challenging point.
But does that happen even when you're making the text on some illustration or some object, or is it on paper?
On paper. So when I'm trying it, like I have to write this Quaker, I will try to write, but it doesn't look like that, it's written on the box. It will look like, okay, it's something outside
Right.
because it doesn't give that tiltedness, the perspective. The perspective changes.
Yeah. Let's see if we can do it in this. I'll show you. I think what happens often is that we straighten out many of our lines, and also we don't compress the shape of
Exactly.
the letter.
Yeah.
So whenever the moment your object has gone from this to this,
Hmm.
the letters get compressed and they get further and further compressed. So if I
Yes.
make it completely flat like that, you'll see that you only see straight lines.
Yes.
So you should draw only straight lines over there. You should not try to make it you should not try to clearly write this artist watercolor. And that's the mistake we make. Plus,
Ah,
also see that the baseline has become crooked.
yes,
We
also.
need to write on that baseline as well.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so just tell me honestly, would you be able to draw this in fair, or should we try a simpler box? Because I realize that there is a person's face on this, and as much as we enjoy that, it might be a little tough. We could go for Farah's original fudge, if you think that would be slightly simpler. Because even the other one, coffee. That too has a person, or we can try the raven. Any
Yeah,
preferences?
the raven would be the easiest
Yeah, even
and
I.
most doable.
Yes. Yeah, so let's try making the raven. Over here, the box is facing us, so we use this line on top as the reference line. This is nice horizontal lines. I quite like this. We can make the bottom also horizontal. And if you want, we can just convert this into a square and then pull in the line a certain distance. Okay, here's what we can do. Let me see how square fits around this box. Square is really big. It's not going to fit. Let me take the bottom and make a square. So it's a little more, it's a little taller than its width. And then we have how much space here? This is the center. So 1/3 on the left and maybe less than a third on the right. That is where we draw our edge from. Right? So we'll draw it this way, and we'll go from here. Then the top is about, let's say, less than half, a little more than a third of the side as we see it, you know. That's it, half or a quarter. So I'm looking at this distance. And how much is this distance over here? Somewhere over here. That is how tall we need to make the top. Let's not make it more than that. See over here, even I'm misguided. So yes, you see, I am just measuring out how many times this top surface area can fit on the body of the box. I got 3 times, and this is it's just an approximation. 3 and maybe 1/3 times. Okay? And the same distance sideways would be about so much. Yeah, so this is like a 4 by 3.5 measurement. So what I've done is I've taken the height of this section of the box as a unit. Let's say this is 1 inch or so. If the top is 1 inch, then the front of the box is 1, 2, 3 and 1/3 inch, and the sides are 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. Do you get it? Yeah, so this is only for us to get some kind of proportion.
But we are making a square box because in this the bottom is less, no? It's not 4.
It's not 4, no, so bottom has a different proportion.
Uh,
I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll just add these pictures. Okay. So let's start off with just a square. And the measurement of the square can be related to the distance that we've got over here. So we've got, I've just drawn a line parallel to my first line. And I'm literally just going to use my fingers to mark 1, 2, 3, and 4, of which I'm just going to cut it into 3 parts. 1, 2, 3, so that I get that 1/3 line. Now I've got some idea of how tall the box is going to be with respect to the top of the box. Okay, I'll just draw a line running through the center, and now from the center I'm going to draw 1, 2 units to the side to get this, and 1 and 2 units to the side to get the other side of the box. Okay, Alka, am I on track?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So keep checking that this is equal. Mine had gone a little bigger than I had expected. So now we have at least a box to start with, and we have a relation between the front and the top. Now the bottom part from the center to the edge, we can divide into 3 parts, 1 and 2. So 2 lines in between means 3 equal parts, 1 and 2. So here the box comes from the side to 1/3 inside, and here a little outside of 1/3. So it's not identical. At this point, the front looks like it's so big, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Even the top, I'm drawing visually. I'm drawing a line going up from this point, the 1/3 point. So it comes somewhere over here. I can always use another pencil to hold. So yes, we try to not use scales as far as possible, because with scales you become dependent on a lot
Yeah,
of things.
even I'm avoiding using a scale.
Very good. Just use your eyes and you should be able to do this. Now this line on the right is not as tilted as the left, so I'm arbitrarily making it more straight, and we get the top. Has everyone got this? Now we'll just turn the edges a little bit, just round them off, because our box does not have sharp edges anywhere. And we start off with making a line parallel to the top left edge, the top edge, and the top right edge. The edges on this side, this line will be closer, just a little bit, if you see it that way. And then there's a little lip on the top as well to seal everything. Then inside we will draw an oval shape, which is right in the center, and this center line should help you create that oval. Now we're going to draw a line parallel to the top half of the oval. So you'll draw a line that comes from the center, like imagine this center of the oval, and comes inside. But it doesn't go all the way around the center, it comes straight inward. Attaches or joins the outside oval in a almost straightish line. This will give us our depressed lid. Now we'll draw 2 bands, one at the bottom very lightly and one at the top. These are just horizontal lines. And now we have to fit our design right in the center. So we ideally should divide the space according to how much we want for each of the letters. The bottom part where we see T is actually really tiny. Then you have the circle in which you can see the raven. And then you have the word raven in this radiating letter style. Now, whenever you make these guidelines, know that these are just guidelines and they are going to help you to size everything better. This is never the final one, and you might have to do a lot of adjustments to this. Like, for example, I think that my raven line, this baseline can be slightly, oh, it is flatter, sorry. Is there enough room from top? Maybe I should bring it slightly lower. These two lines have to be parallel to each other. And where does my circle come with respect to the word raven? Maybe I can bring it a little higher, adjust it a little bit. After we put in these lines, these guidelines, now our box does seem quite proportionate, isn't it? Earlier it looked like it was really big. Now, something happens to circles also as you tilt them. If I were to draw an absolutely perfect circle here, I don't know how perfect this is, but at least it's circular. The point I'm trying to make is, as you tilt the book, the circle starts becoming an oval. Can you see it? It starts flattening. So at this stage, it's an oval. So what happens to the circle when we are looking at it at this orientation? You notice that it becomes a little flatter at the bottom, but here it is round. Now it's not very apparent in our label, but if you were to draw a proper circle on it, let me just do this for you and I'll show you. Let's try drawing a proper circle in its place. This is our top and side. If I go from side to side, this is the circle I should get. This is the perfect circle. Can you see how much it is flattened? It's actually an oval, but our eye perceives it as a circle because that is how the design is being seen by us. So if you have made a perfect circle over there, just extend the sides a little bit and not necessarily right in the center over here. Like I told you, the top part might look more circular and the bottom part will look flatter. So this is one trick, Ritika. This is another reason why maybe your objects, even if they're letters, are not looking like they are at an angle because you're making them absolutely perfect. Okay, so this is quite a nice circle. I'm going to make the design now within this. Draw the silhouette of the raven. It's a simple shape. Start with a head, then draw a body, which is like a teardrop shape coming all the way to the side here, and then draw two V shapes coming outward. Make one of its legs right in the center because our center line goes through this, one on the right. So these proportions also obviously matter. This year we haven't made birds, have we? I think I should put it in next year's schedule. Now, this illustration that we are making has to just resemble a raven. And for that, just make sure that the eye and the beak is more or less like that of a raven. Otherwise, your bird can look like a seagull or something, and the whole point of writing raven would be lost. Now, when you're doing the lettering, split the space of where you have to write the letters into boxes. And we will learn to write the letters within the box. That's how Roman letters were written. They are bold letters, so they will need wider spaces. And first write the letter like you see it without the serifs. Serifs, SSV, are the funny edges on top and bottom of the letters, the free ends. So omit those, don't make those first, just make the letter shapes. Some places you will see that the upright lines are pretty fat and the horizontal lines are thin. So try to draw them the way you see them. We will be adding serifs to the letters after we finish writing the letters completely. I often go from center to right and then left. All the thick lines will be the same thickness, whether they are horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Likewise, all the thin lines will also be exactly the same thinness. So we need to make sure that the spaces between these letters is even. Then our label will look very nice. Now the same thing we'll do over here for T, but look at how the word T looks to us. Right below V, we will make the box for E, but that box will have edges that go sideways. So here's another trick for you, Ritika. The horizontal lines look horizontal, but the vertical lines all tilt. And I think they are flatter also. Alright, so if you're comfortable with your design, now we can ink this. Yes, Sweet, would you like me to see your picture before you ink it? Yeah, just hold it in front of your face. Ah, cute. Nice. So the word T now, make sure that that also is tilted inward a little more. This is looking very cute.
Yeah. Thank you.
How's everyone else doing? Alka, how are you doing?
Good. Yes,
Okay.
everything is off.
See, Susan's. Ah,
Yes.
very cute. Very nice. Great. Oh, let's see Alka's. Good. Nice. And Ritika's. Nice. Your bird, na Ritika, can have a bigger chest. Let that line go a little further. This one, it's too slim over here at this part, I think. Okay, now when you're making the lines for this, I can give you one more illustration tip. Since this has to look like an illustration, it's actually a very charming design in itself. When you're making the lines, maybe don't make them like these architectural lines, too straight. So hold your book in a comfortable position and make lines which are deliberately broken and like a dotted line, maybe. So, not fully dotted, but a little incomplete line here and there. And also a little wobbly would be nice. I've made a lip in the front over here, which is something that you guys can also make. Just a double line in the front. So this line, when you break it up, it makes your object look much softer. Also, it makes it look vintage and less than perfect. It imitates all the bumps and dents that a box like this might have seen through its life. So it gives a very organic feel. Now, even the bottom, you can give it a lip. A lip is when you make a double line to show that that metal has been maybe folded around it. But that's optional. If you want to, you can make it or you can avoid it. The same goes for this oval also. You can make it the way we have made it, or you can add a parallel line, because all these lids, at least in the foreground, had a thickness to it. I remember breaking my nails trying to open these biscuit dabbas. It used to be so painful. I think that was a strategy that my mom would use because she had long nails. And I feel that those long nails were meant so that only she could reach into the side of this lip and pull out that dabba. And she could protect the biscuits from us. That was the whole purpose. So then I remember taking a fork or a spoon and wedging it underneath and then trying to do all sorts of stuff. Bending forks and spoons also. I don't know what material ka dabba my mom used to use. Okay, now just to give you an idea of how to convert regular letters into serif letters. So let's say we have the word raven written here. I'm writing it in a simple lettering style, just capital letters. You have to make sure that the space between the letters is even and also it is proportionate to the style of the lettering we have to do. So here I may not be able to make them too thick. So I will change this a little bit. Make the letters slightly smaller, increase space between them so that I can expand them. How to expand them is already given in our reference image. The upright strokes are fatter, so I'll make this fat. The horizontal strokes are thinner, so even in a curve, the horizontal strokes will be thin. And then we have this very cute shape on the bottom. Then we just need to extend a line to the left, the equivalent amount of this shape, this part of the R, the same amount at the bottom. That will be your serif. And then you turn the sides in a little bit to get the right shape. Serifs are usually on both sides of an upright stem. And there you go. Some letters will have serif on the A, but this one doesn't. So again, we do the same thing, thicken the letter. Most tilted lines will be tilted in the same direction, but here, because the letters themselves are tilted, we don't have to worry about that. And the thickness of this, the first serif will be the same thickness for all the other letters as well. And it will stick out of the letter exactly the same amount. So this is our letter A. Similarly, V is almost exactly opposite of A. We have a flat base like the top of A. Same size serifs on the top and then around. For E, the upright is fat and the horizontal lines are slim, and the serif extends only on the top and the bottom, but there's also an extension upward from the line below and downward from the line on top. And here the serif can be made round. And we have a serif for the center as well. Okay, are you all getting this? I hope this is easy enough to adapt. For the N, mind you, it's not the upright strokes that are fat, it is the side. And this is because it's most counterintuitive. And you will notice that because the N over here is written on a curve, the end stroke is not parallel to the first stroke. It is slightly sideways, it's tilted. And therein lies the mystery of how to make the letters look like they are radial. So notice there is no serif on the bottom corner of the N, only on the top and only on the front, not on the side as well. So you can make this in pencil first if you want, or if you feel confident, go ahead and just write it in pen directly. We've already got all the lines straight. Whatever you do, just take your time making it. Don't rush into it. And if you are in any doubt about a particular line, don't draw it. Wait. Go to all the other lines, finish drawing those. And by the time you come back, you will have better information about how to draw the line that you are in doubt about. Okay, I've come to the end here, and instead of making a line parallel to the first line, I'm going to tilt it a little bit to the right. I know it looks a little unnatural, but this is what will make the letter look like. Just sitting on this curve perfectly. Now, circles can be very painful to draw. I admit I'm not a big fan of making circles. But if you make multiple circles in pencil, then converting one of them into proper circle is not very difficult. And if you happen to miss the line, leave a gap in between. That's fine. We're going to come back and color all this. At any point when you have to make your design firm with pen, you have the opportunity to make the right adjustments to the pencil line. So it's like a second chance you get, or even a third chance if you want. So always re-evaluate your pictures before you decide to ink them. When you're making the eye for the raven, remember to keep a small spot as a highlight. I've kept it, but I've changed the space of the eye, so right now it is covered in pencil lines, but that'll go. And to keep life simple, just draw an inverted, like a champagne flute shape for the feet. There is also some grass over here. And then we can go down to making tea. The moment the E comes to the other side, its tilt changes. Huh? Remember that. The verticals tilt in the other direction. And then of course we have a little trimming at the bottom, which will be parallel to the bottom of the box itself. I forgot the trimming on the top also. There we go. Okay, I'm erasing my pencil lines now. So Alka, tell me, did the proportion thing work? This dividing it in 4 parts on top, six.
I think so. Look at that.
It did. Yeah, I think it did. So this is, like I was saying in the Tuesday class also, this is a way that I prefer to make certain objects, because you just make measurements according to whichever space you're drawing, and you know generally where, uh, how you have to move around those lines. Whereas the other trick would be to actually make a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter grid. But in that, sometimes I feel you lose the a connect. Both are equally easy to make. In fact, the other one would be even more objective. But this one I feel is a little more artistic. Now you'll notice that the letters Raven and T have got a drop shadow in the back.
Hmm.
But we won't make that right now. We will make that after. Ah, nice. We'll make that after we've painted everything. How cool, very nice. Again, your letters are still looking straight, Ritika, because the because the bottom letters could have been tilted more. The T could have been made a little this way and that. But no worries, because you made the sides of the box
Looking.
very slanted. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, I think when you were writing and you started to write and you said wait, see first and then come back. It really helped me because I was very fast. Then I stopped. I said, okay, let me go one by one and see whether it
Ah,
makes sense or not.
okay, there. Okay, now we know. All right. So now for painting all of this, we can literally do a paint by numbers kind of thing. There's very little, there are very few colors that are mixing into each other simply because when these boxes were made, everything was, I think, just screen printed. But because we are doing a watercolor exercise, you should have some merges, some colors merging into each other and colors playing with each other. So I would recommend that leave a few spots like these where you have a highlight, like this section, not just a highlight, but the weathering has been different. There are no highlights really. Some spots can just be left at random. So I'm going to take just this gray color. This gray is made from cobalt blue, ultramarine, burnt umber and black and made very watery. So SSV, what I normally do is keep some colors on the palette and then just mix some black or blue to that to make a gray. And if you don't have any of that, mix cobalt blue or ultramarine blue with burnt umber, that's this deep brown color, and to that add a little bit of black, very little bit, and you will get some kind of grayish pigment to which you can add lots of water and you will get something like this. See how watery it is, it's running all over the place. So this I'll give you the color breakup on our sheet as well so you know what I'm working with. And it's also very watery. So I'm going to use that with a fat brush across the top. And a few places I'm not going to paint, like just the edge of the rim or something like that, so that it looks like there's a highlight there. And we will be painting multiple layers on this. Now we can use the same color to dull everything else up a bit. But make sure that you have a very light shade. This is like an undertone you paint so that the object automatically starts looking three-dimensional sometimes, vintage sometimes. The dents in the box can be made more perceptible. And whenever you are making these washes, remember to strategically press the brush down. Now for the other colors, we can use a thin brush to paint a nice teal blue color as a background for the raven. That can be made using a little bit of emerald green and cobalt blue. So anytime you want to make a light color, instead of adding white to that, just paint that color in itself very watery. And if you're unsure, first make a sample either on the book, but make a nice sample. No? Don't make some odd horrible marks like that on the side. That totally destroys whatever nice painting you're going to make. So that's my teal, and in the few places that the teal is visible on the raven itself, just make those marks. This is going to be a base coat anyway, so you could paint all over also. Some feet and definitely on the grass. Now, funnily enough, for the rest of the box, there must have been what looks like a cream colored paint on these sections, the letters in the back of the raven. But all we see is the raw color of the tin itself. So we can paint that with yellow ochre. And in that, we will create some fake blemishes using a deeper color, maybe. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take maybe even a thinner brush, and we could use even a dry brush for this. So don't paint it fully. This is the place where those of you who've been afraid of patchy painting can use your patchy painting. And mind you, we are painting the dark patches, not the light patches. I am keeping the original color of the paper as the color of the light colored tin.
What were the colors you used? Yellow ochre and
Just yellow ochre. So in this we can add maybe a little bit of the purple or whatever to create some dark shade if you feel the need. And you can make some more blemishes also, so you don't paint the whole thing. I have this weird purple lying around, so I'm just dipping into this a little bit. This is made from ultramarine blue and crimson. Same thing over here. All the stuff that I tell you not to do, like don't go back and forth on the paper, do all of that in this one. So paint in different directions if you need to. Except that, keep your paint wet when you are mixing with these other colors so that you still don't get too many obvious patches as such. You get patches that you want. And some of this color can go over the colors that we painted before, because this is supposed to be the raw color of the tin underneath. Oops, 1 second. Ooh, Alka, you're back, no? You're just ready.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, I'm back.
Okay, so the bottom letters are not that damaged. Okay, now let's paint the main box itself. We can always come back to these letters afterwards. So for this, you need to create a lot of paint. Now I'm going to use this opportunity to show you this palette that we are making in Jaipur, and they are all ready and being shipped to me. So this it will be available to order by the end of the month, or actually end of next week also. So I always felt the need for a palette like this which could hold a lot of paint at the same time. Our lids are good enough, yes, for a certain amount, but when you want to do a large scale painting or even have a
How did you look?
there you go. So I wasn't getting any over here. I got one I got from the US, and then of course there were the same available on Amazon. Then Ritu said she knows this guy who can make for us, and he's made this nice logo, cat logo in the center.
Oh, so cute. Yes.
So I thought, chalo, let's do this thing. Okay, so I'm making a combination of scarlet and a little bit of orange. They're both in separate wells, but I'm going to be using them interchangeably. So you need to have enough paint to create a wash. And to create a wash, you will hold your book a little at an angle and make your paint wash consistency. So that means that it is very loose, and because of the way you tilt your book, it will start to flow towards the bottom edge of that application. So I'm going to leave the top and I'm going to show you how to paint this thing. Wherever you have letters, there are gaps in the letters that you need to fill. So you should ideally keep a thin brush and a medium sized brush handy so that you can paint all these things simultaneously. You should make enough color so that you don't run out of paint, especially if you're sitting under the fan or an AC or the temperature is too hot. The consistency of your paint can change even in the 4 to 6 inches that we have to paint right now. So make adequate paint and keep it well hydrated. So if you want, just take a quick break and watch how I'm doing this, because more than just listening to it, it's also good to watch how the wash is made. So I'm starting with a fat brush and I'm laying down the first layer, and I'll go around the letters leaving a little gap. But because my book is tilted, you will notice that all the color has come to the bottom edge of that section. And I'll still use the fat brush, or I can also use the medium thick brush to pull in this color between the gaps. And then before the color dries, I will use a thin brush, soak it in color, don't bring in the dry brush here, and then go close to the line. So you can do this very detailed work while the paint is still wet, as long as you make the apply the paint as a wash, not as a thick color. Now at this point, forget about the cavities within the letters like R and A, but do address the spaces in E and N because they are not cavities. And I can do all this quite aram se because the edges are still wet, and I can pull the color down without creating patches, and repeat the same process for the rest of the letters. So don't be in a rush, take your time, but remember to hold the book upright, well, not upright, at least 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and keep your brushes close, make adequate paint, and only fiddle with the colors when or as long as the paint is wet. If it has dried, then that edge is now settled. You don't want to unsettle it. Now in this again, I will keep dipping into an orange and a scarlet interchangeably, because I can see that the box is not evenly painted. It could be because of its own aging. It could be that maybe the shade is already that, or sometimes these boxes also may have two layers of paint. It's most satisfying. The very thing that is often seen as the scary and frustrating bit about watercolor can be very soothing if it is done right. So the advantage of using a fat brush is that you quickly cover an area and stain the paper. And the thin brush then helps you to just spread that stain in the areas more accurately without going into other color areas. There we go. And while the rest are area is drying, I will paint this also with the same shade. Don't forget the cavities, because once everything dries and your color changes, then when you make the cavity, that will look weird too. In this case now, the center of the R is looking bright, and it's looking bright because that color is still wet. Everything else around it has started drying. As our colors dry, they will become lighter. So don't immediately panic looking at the center of the R and say the rest of it is looking light and start painting that. That is a downward spiral. So allow everything to dry, and then when you look at it, you'll see that it has become even. Okay, so it's already 11 o'clock, and I'm going to move ahead and quickly make some of the other things. Like, for example, the inside of this lid has a dark shadow. I'm using the same gray that we'd done before, this time a little more concentrated, and making a dark edge along the inner side of the metal. And with a thin brush also, just at this edge. These shadows make a big difference in making your box look very realistic. Then the color of the raven is not black. It is in fact a deep blue color. So we can use a mix of cobalt blue and maybe even black, or we could just first paint the whole raven in cobalt blue, a thick shade of cobalt, and see how that works. And for that, use a thin brush again, mark the outlines. In some places you will have to leave some sections as highlights, like the beak. I have a feeling that there are some black lines on top of this also, but they're barely visible. So much of the head of the raven is completely blue, and then the rest can be the green shapes can be just created by making brush strokes in the shape of these C shapes, movement of the brush itself. Nothing special needed there. So wherever you see that texture, just make strokes and don't fill up everything over there. So, one thing is that at every point you must keep referring to the reference image. Don't imagine that you know in one shot what you have seen. Classic mistake made by many beginners is to stop looking at the reference image at some point, and then before you know it, you've colored the wrong thing, or you've colored too deep inside something that was going perfectly well. For those of you who have ever played a sport, especially sports which involve balls like tennis or basketball or baseball, there is something called keeping the eye on the ball. In our case, it is very often keeping an eye on the reference image. I am terrible at all sports, I think. So that's because I just didn't understand this concept till much later, and by then I had aged out of any sport. Now, if you do not make the shapes, the green shapes in the spaces that were designated according to the design on the box, don't worry about that too much. Somewhere you can make them, and that should be good enough. At this stage, I feel my green is looking too light, so I'm going to freshen it up a little bit. And here again, we don't need to make that green all over. It's after all, it's a weathered look. So I'm making a second layer of this teal, which can come intermittently across the circle. The same cobalt blue can come on top as well. There's a little gap there. And here again, you can deliberately make it patchy. Leave some sections in some places unpainted. And here another thing we can do is drop in a few black color spots just while the paint is still wet, so that again it looks stained. Now I would go over the red one more time and make it even brighter, so then this becomes much more compelling picture. And the second thing to do is to go over the outline of the word raven to make that more prominent, And if you want to, you can also make this shadow. So for the shadow, just follow the guidelines that are on paper, on your reference image, sorry, and draw a corresponding crooked line and a flattened version of the letter itself, like this, with serifs and all on the in the back. But this can be rather complicated. So even if you just darken the edges with either paint or with a thicker pen, even that will look nice. But if you feel that your base coat is rather light, then wait. Go over this one more time. Do the same exercise with scarlet as we did before, and then uh, make the outlines. So I would say I'm at 50% right now, and I would like to paint more, put more color in this. And hopefully, I should get some time later to do this up. Okay, any questions? How are your ravens looking? Ah, very nice.
I realized I hadn't done the bottom lettering. I only did the top raven and forgot all about the T.
Oh my God. Okay, one minute. Let me change the view. Yes. Ah, wow, beautiful. Alka, could you hold yours up? I'll just
Yeah.
take capture an image. SSV, could you hold yours? How cute is that? I love it. Very well done. Cover your face, SSV. Yeah. Hold it a little more to your left. Yes, thank you. Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so I need to end the session right now. If you, why don't you all put these pictures up on the group and also maybe on Art from Home. Put them all up in a clump.
Put them
So
up now, finish them and put them up.
finish them and put them up.
Ah, yeah.
So first everyone put them on the group and then you can put them up on the Art from Home group
Okay.
when everyone is ready. So then everyone can see them one after the other. Tap, 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 tap.
This
Okay.
this was really fun. I mean, after a
Yeah.
long, I mean,
After
we
a
were
long
doing
time.
fun, but yeah, after a long time, this was
Yeah.
something really interesting also.
Good.
I
Cool.
like the last one also, the moths. I had so much fun doing that. I had so much
Yeah.
fun finishing that page.
You did a lot actually. Cool.
Okay.
So next Saturday again we will have class. The Saturday after that I will be in Jaipur, so we won't have that class. So the last uh, week, I think that is what is today? Is the 9th. So I think that would be the 29th, is it? That weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we will have class to make up for this lost class. Okay, so in case I forget, yeah, it's the 30th. So 30th and 1st we can have class. We'll have class on the 16th. We'll miss on the 23rd. The 30th and 1st we will have two back-to-back classes. Okay. Uh,
Aditi, I'd like one of those palettes, please, simply because of the
cat,
logo
huh?
on it. Yeah.
I know. Yes, great.
So
I
please
will
book
start.
one for me.
I will. I'll start an order of for the pallets as soon as I receive them. I'll put them up on the group. Okay, chalo. See you
Okay,
Bye,
all.
everyone. Have a
Bye.
good weekend.
All of you.
happy
Thank
weekend.
you.
Bye bye.